As summer heat wanes into fall, another anime season has come and gone. Summer 2025 was a packed season full of hyped shows I mostly won't be talking about. Welcome back, I'm Tamanon, and this is Anime Missed Masterpieces Summer 2025, where I talk a little about the shows I enjoyed that deserve to have more fans. Clevatess is your average slow life about raising a cute baby. Look at how precious he is, who is finding a family with his two mothers. And well, just kidding, look at that. Geez. Well, welcome to Clevatess, the king of magical beasts, the baby, and the corpse hero. As the title sort of gives away, this is a dark fantasy featuring the king of magical beasts, Clevatess, and with his shining flame mane and spooky shadow tentacles, the baby Luna, who you already saw, and the corpse hero Alicia, who is easily the best character, but also the designated punching bag. I know this all sounds like a spoiler, but this is all set up in episode 1, and also the name of the anime, so don't get too mad about it. Based on an ongoing manga that started as a, not really a webtoon, but some sort of e-manga in Japan, and a season 2 confirmed already, I really enjoyed this ride. In many ways, it seemed almost a passion project, considering an entire episode was animated and directed, etc. by basically one guy towards the end. Or the budget meme, I wouldn't know. However, this is also what appears to be the director's first time at the helm. Most enjoyable for me was the world building presented. It felt like an 80s B-movie in the best possible way. In a world where most fantasy anime still have a ton of isekai-type properties, Clevatess really stood out. The world has multiple humanoid races, from pink-haired dog-nosed not-elves to your average human-looking dudes, all shoved into a small section of continent surrounded on all sides by ancient monsters who lord over their lands and kill any intruders. The humans have been trapped like this for an untold amount of time, to the point the idea of heroes once defeating the ancient lords is a fairy tale for children. This is just a fact of life. It's how the world works. No one questions that they can't go past the domain of the Dark Lords. You have a mystical magical forge that makes magical weapons only a king's blood can use. People embedding children with crystals taken from dark beasts to give them powers. Knights, queens, epic quests. The setting is just rule of cool. The character designs ooze heavy metal. And the show does not shy away from brutality, with our zombie heroine getting chopped, eaten, and ripped apart seemingly every episode. Right, our main hero Alicia is, as the title says, a reanimated corpse bound to serve Clevatess. The Dark Lord is currently trying to figure out if he wants to eradicate all human life in the same way a chef may ponder, hey, maybe we should call some people in for pesticide on Ratatouille. To do so, Clevatess has disguised himself as a Shota and takes care of a baby while reanimating a hero he killed, because he needed to know how babies work. In the background, you have war and deepest lore full of mysteries unfolding. The animation was solid, and some scenes were really well done, more so than most seasonal fantasy or isekai anyway. Each episode made me wish for the next week to come faster to see where it would go. And despite a main character being a baby who never talks, he was really never annoying. Many times when an anime introduces a child character, they end up being whiny and annoying, but not our King Luna. With a Season 2 announcement and this season ending on a massively interesting twist, I couldn't have enjoyed this more and hope you give Clevatess a chance. The season's brutal dark fantasy did not stop there, continuing with apocalypse bringer Mynoghra. Mynoghra? It's a weird word. And a isekai where a diseased teen, Takuto, who loved playing a very specific fantasy game, Eternal Nations, that kind of seems like a Civ 4 or something similar at least, finds himself waking up in a spooky forest with his game companion waifu, Ato. She, while being from the game, remembers being part of the game, as well as her country being led to victory many times with Takuto at the helm. Through a series of events, we realize he has been reincarnated as a nation leader from the game Eternal Nations as the King of Ruin, and he and Ato are distinctively in many ways. The initial setup made me think of a less serious overlord, or maybe an overlord where his subordinates aren't straight evil. You have a group of dark elves Takuto saves from persecution and starvation by bringing them into his nation and enveloping them in the lovely hug of evil. You have two elf twins with a messed up past. They had to eat their mother. Yes, they ate their mother to survive, and that's just the start of it. Takuto can summon units like the video game from creepy bug scout things that look much cuter in the anime than the light novel the anime is based on, to a giant bug mom who is as sweet and caring and RR as she is vicious. And the series gets very violent, with a savage removal of all who would harm the fledgling peaceful country King Takuto and Lady Atto wish to build. I won't pretend the animation or direction were great. At times it was downright awful, but as a seasonal low-budget light novel adaptation, it was an enjoyable weekly follow. It also got me reading the light novel it's based on, as these often do when it seems not very well made, which so far I've been enjoying reading. There's a neat twist where, well, skip forwards if you don't want to know the twist, they aren't the only ones isekai into the world. Woo! There are multiple players and characters from that player's game of choice. Just like how King Katoto can summon units to his Civ type game, others also get various game rules like forced cutscenes from an RPG or a VN Aero game character being OP because the throwaway lore that wasn't applicable in the dating sim works really well in the fantasy world. But truthfully, the main reason to watch it is how cute Atto and Takuto are, acting like star-crossed lovers who finally get to be around each other, and it's just cute. Well, that and the out of left field brutality like skinning drug dealers alive in front of an emissary from another nation and children, that's pretty metal. Fantasy takes many forms in anime, and anyone who's watched my prior seasonals knows I like shoujo fantasy. And while this is not technically labeled shoujo, Secrets of the Silent Witch has all the elements I enjoy from it. Following the extremely introverted Monica Everett, one of the strongest magicians in the world, known as the Seven Sages, a mage so powerful she can summon a fairy king to blast dragons out of the sky, she has been tasked on her most difficult assignment yet: going back to high school. While the premise seems very comedic, it's actually played fairly straight and has many darker elements in the background. Our main character Monica's obsession, like many of these sort of fantasy shows the femc always has a hyperfixation, is math. She loves math. Everything is math to her. Just numbers. It's how she alone figured out how to do magic without chanting odorously long incantations to make the magic happen. This is also part of her dark past. That's a real tearjerker. A reverso Salem witch trial where they burn mathematicians instead of witches, and I'm still trying to figure out what that mystery is all about entirely, as this is based on a light novel, so it's currently ongoing. Currently looks like 7 with 10 planned books with a spin-off of some sort, and a good chunk is already translated into English officially if you're into that. And I've got to say, for a seasonal light novel adaptation, this has a lot of love, and every episode looked and sounded great. The voice actors also shot it out of the park, with many Bochi the Witch meme comments due to the femc's anxiety-created mutterings, which are all very kawaii. Each episode is about Monica trying to deal with her own introverted nature, contrasting the task she was given, pretending to be a noble schoolgirl to get close to the second prince as a secret agent bodyguard. The other sages thought, with her silent casting and young age, this would make covert operations easy peasy, but didn't seem to factor in Monica's extreme inability to connect with others, especially those her age. She can shoot down 400 dragons from the sky, but looking someone in the eye to say thank you will send her into a coma. So on one hand, you have all these silly slice of life shoujo tropes where she slowly gains hot bishy boys' trust, acquires friends, is bullied a bit by nobles who think she's a no one in the typical otome fashion. And on the other hand, you have secret missions full of danger where assassins use cunning tricks and cursed magic to try and manipulate or kill the future king. This is a series where I was very glad it got a season 2 announcement immediately, and I look forward to starting the novels of it. Seasonal anime watching has peaks and dips, and unfortunately sometimes a show starts off interesting and just falls right off a cliff. The Water Magician was that for me this season, with a very good lead-in to a very meh end. You have the typical slow life isekai where a guy gets reborn and just wants to farm in the woods for God's sake, because God made an oopsie. Now, what immediately set this one apart was that for the first 4 episodes or so, the premise was super fantastical. The main character learns to sword fight from a headless knight who walks out of a lake. He slowly learns how to use his new water powers over what we find out is possibly decades or more, and he makes friends with a giant red dragon. Meeting a shipwrecked noble, the two become best friends on a journey across snowy peaks, fighting off schools of wyverns and avoiding the giant hippo behemoth. The animation starts very strong, and while the story isn't anything too out there for a Isekai seasonal slappa, it initially stood out due to how different it felt. Unfortunately, it slows in the second half when he reaches a town with the shipwrecked noble and the story just kind of stagnating. It also introduces the typical isekai guilds and quests and dungeons and all that, which, look, personally I don't mind and I enjoy quite a bit, but after a few episodes where it felt a bit more classic and different, going back to those tropes wasn't something I particularly enjoyed in this setting. I finished the series and the first half is definitely worth watching. It's based on a novel series and I wonder if it gets more interesting because some of the ideas and world setup definitely could be, but not enough to make me go, wow, I should read this, unlike the other novel-based shows this season. The biggest slap in later episodes is the gorgeous OP, which is animated so crazy, contrasting the garbage animation in the actual show. But you know what, hey, that was kind of good for a laugh. Continuing the middle of the road novel series is Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter. I was recommended this one at Anime Expo from a friend who loves Ascendance of a Bookworm as much as I do, saying it was a very similar story. The setup is as the title states, which is the usual for light novels, where the MC becomes a private tutor to the Northern Duke's daughter, and you later find out some other Duke's daughters as well. I'll predicate this by saying I am vaguely interested in the novel now, but not as much as I thought it would be, because the series sort of went all over the place once the main characters went to Hogwarts. The first half was set up learning about these ancient lineage spells and how the magic works a bit, and this sort of slice of life with the end goal of learning magic was very enjoyable. The main girl can't do any magic despite being a duke's daughter who should be able to cast a bunch of the best spells possible. She tries and keeps failing, with even her maid getting answers from the spirits for magic to work. She's had multiple tutors before the MC who comes along and tirelessly looks over old books and tries new ways to get her magic to work to no avail. Eventually, through some magical bullcrap, she overcomes these trials and develops a little crush on Sensei, and starts training to be a super cool wizard shooting ice beams and fighting stronger opponents. Then, they go to Hogwarts, where the story meanders and just becomes a sort of power MC harem where 20-some girls of varying hair color compete for how much they can metaphorically do things to the MC. YouTube would remove this video for saying. It took what was a cute show about a tutor and a hard-working girl and made it into a typical harem, complete with pointless, flavorless villain Prince of the Week, and stepsis Wolf Girl, who was the best girl, but anyway, that's not the point. Another seasonal fantasy where I enjoyed the build-up more than what I can imagine was supposed to be the payoff. The animation also continuously went downhill, although not to the extent of Water Magician. So why am I talking about it here? Well, allegedly the books are good, and the girls were cute, and I did watch it each week, and I don't really regret it, so if that's your thing, it wasn't bad, and yeah, you can enjoy watching it. What is worth a watch, despite being the dumbest isekai concept I've watched for some time, is Busamen Gachi Fighter, or Ugly Mug Epic Fighter. This light novel adaptation goes places, most of them not very expected but in a very good way. You have your typical transported to another world, except this time the main character was an ugly dude to start with, and in a twist of fate, accidentally made himself even more horrendously ugly when he was a isekai. But he has a heart of gold, and was very charming and generous person, and well liked before being reborn as an ugly mug. The story is your typical slapstick comedy, at first, where the super ugly dude finds out because he made himself so ugly that if a female touches him, he will literally die. In exchange, he has gained god-tier powers. His companions he wakes up nearby all have various quirks in their power set as well, since when you're transported to this other world, you write a small synopsis, basically of what you want to be, including a character slider like an old school video game MMO. The companions are all very chunny people who have chosen some very silly power-ups like turning into a winged Superman to protect my friends, an angel girl whose power is turning friend to foe if they just hold her hands, and a devil on your shoulder who secretly knows your heart. While early on, these special notes that the isekai people write that are like character sheets giving them their powers, it leads to some really funny interactions, like one girl giving herself extra power by lowering her pretty scale, but she wrote in her notes, "I'm totes cute, lol," and kind of similar silliness. These power sets quickly become the main focus of the story, but not in the way you might think. You see, most people did not think they would actually be transported to another world, and wrote a bunch of nonsense or curses or even random poetry into the notes, and mismatched their powers completely on the scalable slider. So when they were reborn, they inadvertently turned themselves into monsters, similar to the Ugly Mug OP, who in many ways ended up somewhat lucky as he was used to being ugly already. However, some notes might drive someone to lengths they would never under normal circumstances. Like, say you were in debt in real life, so angrily in this note when you were filling it out in on the line before you got a second or whatever, you wrote, "I don't need money." Now you're reborn and you can't ever earn a dime. It just won't let you. Or you were scorned by a cheating spouse, so you wrote, "I'll never forgive women." And now you try to gack every other female you see no matter what. You're just you can't stop yourself. In a lot of ways, it's almost like the system is a curse. This underlying twist to the typical power fantasy shines through more than the comedy fairly quickly and makes the show a very enjoyable ride. It was very pleasant how there would randomly be some crazy fight animations out of nowhere, and seeing 2D monsters instead of CGI eye cancer is always a highlight, to the point I've watched way worse Isekai number 13900 billion just because the monsters look cool and were traditionally animated. The characters set up to be jokes end up having interesting backstories that explain the notes they made and the powers that they gain in return. The world is dealing with this influx of weird isekai people, and various groups form to cope with being dealt a bad hand in their notes, even if it is their own fault, because this is like their second life in a row that they've messed up. It's just a really interesting concept. I don't think it's getting a season 2, which is sad, and I'll greatly miss the chunny characters in a silly world of horrific accidental choices. I do think they should have named the series Ugly Bastard's Friend Harem though. I'm not really a translator, so it's probably not the best name. On a more somber note is Hotel Inhumans. I'll be honest, it is not the prettiest anime. There were many episodes where the animation was practically a slideshow, and some episodes feel a bit too long, using the somber vibe of the world to sell long pauses that go on a bit too much to simply be a pillow shot. However, I still found myself enjoying the humanity in a hotel for Inhumans. Inhumans meaning here, contract killers, assassins, murderers for hire. Each arc revolves around some sort of killer with a problem, from running away from a hit gone wrong, to keeping their secret life from their wife. It comes down to the hotel concierge team, the front desk, consisting of the icy Sarah and the goofball newcomer Hoshi. Each new arc sets up the killer's tragic backstory, many of which are started as child soldiers, or slaves, or prostitutes, or any manner of awful circumstance you can think of, usually followed by the adult version stumbling into the hotel in need of a night's rest because they're a little messed up. Then there is a slight mystery element as you, the audience, yes, that's right, you, try to figure out what sort of story will be told. Is this killer actually a bad guy after all? Or someone who only kills child traffickers or drug dealers? Either way, the hotel's concierge is there to serve you, and sometimes even step in to yank a few mobsters who might be foolish enough to come guns a-blazing into the hotel for Inhumans. It feels like this is trying to take elements from something like Gunslinger Girls, and while not exactly nailing it, overall it found its atmosphere along the way. Some of the stories are absolutely gut-wrenching, with payoffs that are so sad. You almost wish that you hadn't watched it all, but in like a good way. Not to say that every arc is a despair prawn run, and not every story ends in tragedy. It's a whole atmosphere. And if more grounded stories about criminals and murder is your forte, you will certainly enjoy your stay at the Hotel Inhumans. Bringing back my love for shoujo otome, josei, or whatever you want to call it, Betrothed to My Sister's Ex is a delightful take on Cinderella. You have the red-headed, competent daughter, Mary, who for some inexplicable reason is treated like absolute dirt by her parents. She does the gardening, she does the cooking, she does the cleaning, she does all of her noble father's paperwork, including reading and replying to nobles across the world in multiple languages. Yeah. Yet she sees herself as less than a worm. Her mother blames her for her grandmother's death by sickness. Her father uses and abuses her to keep his gravy train from leaving the station. Her one joy in life is her older sister, the golden-haired, beautiful Anastasia, who their parents dote on and adore. Her loving older sister with a name that's kind of a spoiler. On Mary's birthday, instead of introducing her as a proper noble to high society, the event focuses entirely on her sister, Anastasia. People even wonder who the heck the redhead in rags is. In a pit of despair that she will never be sought after or loved like her sister, she meets Kiros. Kiros is a duke whose mother is a foreign mistress. The country he partially hails from is one Mary had read all about, being fluent in the language for her father's work she is taking care of, and Mary has a great personal interest in, practically a weeb for it. Kyros and Mary instantly hit it off, and a few days later, a letter arrives from Mary's father, from the Duke, Kyros, asking for one of his daughter's hands in marriage. Yes, Kyros wants to marry Anastasia! Wait, what? Exactly. The story starts with that mix-up, where Kyros thought the blonde bundle of attention at the party was Mary, since it was supposed to be her party after all, and that the redhead in rags must be the other daughter, Anastasia. What a mix-up. Through a series of unfortunate events I won't spoil, Mary gets sent in Anastasia's place, and the Duke Kyros is delighted, but Mary thinks he is in love with her sister. Hijinks ensue. Okay, so not a very funny story, so no hijinks. It's more of a romance drama where we delve into Kyros' past and how he became a duke from a mistress mother, and the story of the sisters and why their parents loved one but not the other. Or maybe it's a little of both. The early misunderstandings between Kyros and Mary over Mary thinking Kyros is just being nice and really wanted Anastasia instead doesn't really overstay its welcome like the sort of genre is known for, and becomes a very sweet story about overcoming past traumas and a semi-mystery show about the families. It's based on an ongoing light novel which you can currently buy in English as well. In a world of light novel adaptations, we get a very good manga adaptation. Dealing with the Mikadono sisters is a breeze, was one of my weekly most anticipated shows. At its base, it's a silly rom-com harem, but quickly you realize it's much more than that, and probably more akin to a harem anime told by the girl's perspective, despite the manga source being in a shonen magazine. Not that that means anything. Your main character isn't your typical bland harem protag. Yu is the red-headed only child of an elite actress, who didn't seem to pass any of her talent onto her son. At all. He got her looks, but more as a pretty boy tiny Shota than a hot tall model. He seemingly isn't good at anything, but he embraces this as a klutzy, good-natured kid. However, he certainly has mommy issues regarding her talent and his lack of any despite trying every avenue that was available. His mother passes, and he is taken in by a friend of hers, who is an absent producer of a father. The long story short, the setup is he is a a-hole dad who forces his 3 daughters to excel from childhood, or else. And now he wants to collect Yu as a new member of his talent kid team. Unfortunately for him, his daughters, and Yu is just not talented. The 3 Mikadono sisters are incredibly talented. You have the elite princely acting prodigy Kazuki, who wins the hearts of every male and female she glances at, the karate master sporty type Nico, who can and will beat the ever-loving tar out of you, and the youngest Miwa, who is a genius shogi champion who enjoys spending her free time beating AI at math. They eat, breathe, and live for their talent of choice, fueled to win no matter what. Any excess is a burden, and anyone who can't move the sisters towards their goals is a waste of human capital. This drive has cost the sisters many things as they march forwards, including the closeness the 3 once had. The main dude Yu is the sisters' definition of wasted space. Yet his earnest yearning to belong to their family and his hard work eventually manages to melt the heart and panties of the sisters. Yes, the panties. He is 5 feet of pure accidental Rizlord. Through multiple arcs and series of events, Yu manages to worm his way into the 3 sisters' daily lives, becoming a necessary part of their home and bringing the sisters closer together. It also helps that the one thing Yu is really good at is at-home healthy cooking, cleaning, setting schedules, basically a stay-at-home mom, the sort of thing the sisters' minds don't have the space for, but they desperately need. What sets this would-be harem apart for me is how earnestly each of the characters and their drives all feel. Each girl and the main character having well-delivered backstories that make how they act and communicate feel less of a trope to fill ex-waifu slot where each girl's arc is more about how they center around the main guy, and more of a real character you want to root for. The animation is also really well done, with PA Works doing solid, beautiful scenes and good comedic timing for the gag cuts. I was surprised to see this is the first full show the director has worked on, prior only directing a few episodes and doing storyboards, so I'm very excited to see where they go from here. Hopefully the manga gets more adapted as it's going on as well, since I greatly enjoyed this first season and the episodes felt like they were a breeze going by in an instant. The manga adaptation everyone and their Uncle John, who for some reason never married, were waiting for is The Summer Hikaru Died. I'm not going to go too in depth about this one because I'm certain by this point there's 40 pages of hour-long video essays about it, but I did want to talk about it for just a minute. I was hesitant to watch the series at first, as all I knew was it was a yaoi horror. Look, I'm not opposed to yaoi, I really like Banana Fish, but generally yaoi falls into two categories, at least from what I've noticed watching seasonal anime. It's either trying to be gender-bent yuri with very similar tropes and a million various dudes and based on a gacha game of some kind, or the saddest, most abuse-filled sob story you will watch that season. Hearing Hikaru died as a title and it being a quote-unquote horror, I felt for certain it would be the second, and I wasn't sure if I'd watch past episode 3. It's just too much to spare, right? However, from the get-go, the story is just too gripping with amazing direction and animation. The tension some scenes set up is amazing. Highlighting horror can be done right in animated form if you just go about it the right way. The overarching mystery plot is genuinely engaging. Yes, there is some of the POV, I want to fuck my best friend's reanimated corpse that's probably a skinwalker, no homo tee, but overall it is not anywhere close to OMG, yaoi paddle XD tier people are talking, like made it out to be talking about it. And even if you're not swinging for the other team, you'll be able to enjoy Hikaru. Also, the OP song is a banger, and if the title didn't spoil it, the anime is about the summer a kid named Hikaru died. But he gets better, sort of. Also, ghosts try to mindfuck people in town, and the town is probably cursed for worshipping an evil god or something or another. If you like Cthulhu horror, YouTube videos titled, I started a job at Denny's and we have 5 strange rules to survive, or stories about how love can lead you to strange and mostly bad places, I recommend giving the show a go. Oh, you wanted Yuri instead? How about Yuri Cthulhu horror? Well, the season delivered on that too. That's right, 2 shows full of creepypasta outside time and space this past season. Necronomico and the Cosmic Horror Show is an original produced by Cygames, but doesn't have a phone game. Well, yet anyway. It follows BooTube streamer Miko, who goes by the handle Necronomico? Necronomico. Yeah. You need 2 tongues to say the name, just like Cthulhu. Some sort of play on words, I'm sure. The base premise is that all over the world, popular BooTube and Twitch streamers are going into comas, and no one knows why. Miko's best and childhood friend Mayu is one of them. Miko, along with other streamers, are then invited to compete in the Cosmic Horror Show with various prizes. For Miko, it's to find out what happened to Mayu. This Cosmic Horror Show is a virtual reality game ran off the power of the old ones, various gods and demi-deities from the Lovecraftian world. Miko is horrified to find out that her best friend Mayu's body and personality has been hijacked by Cthulhu itself. And holy cow, Cthulhu likes to show off her, tentacles. The streamers are promised that if they collect enough points in the various VR games, the old gods will leave their friends' bodies and not destroy the earth. But lose a game and your sanity leaves as well, and your body will be in a coma while your mind gets stolen by the void. Or you just outright die, whichever, you know. The art style is kind of different and took me a minute to get used to because of the egg-shaped heads, giant ears and thin necks, and the shonen-looking hair. It was very jarring, but once you settle into the episode, they completely match the tone. This is a battle royale, over-the-top, death game mystery with heavy Yuri overtones and undertones. Some crazy animation and Vidya references someone who actually plays those would enjoy, and various YouTube drama, but this time with real stakes and not just clout chasing. Well, there's some of that too if you count ending the world and oversharing personal traumas till you go insane as clout farming. Grifting for the devil? Maybe. While not an 11 out of 10 must watch, it was a super fun weekly ride and probably just as enjoyable in the binge. Seeing the main characters dwindle week by week, never sure who was going to make it to the end, and finding out in detail how each and every one of them was insane from the get-go is super fun. And there certainly are enough WTF twists to break your mind over. The OP and ED also introduced me to some new music I've greatly been enjoying, and now talking about it makes me want to watch it again. Somehow, the anime about Yuri streamers fighting against Cthulhu isn't even the most anime show of the season. What could be more anime than Necronomico? Or Ugly Mug? That's right, the cute girl anime about bowling. Yes, the anime about high school girls bowling gets the Most Anime of the Anime Season Award. The title is Turkey, referencing when a bowler gets 3 strikes in a row, or when you bowl again and get a strike. Google answer versus the show left me a bit confused on the meta bowling pun, so someone strike out the answer for me in the comments so I can pin it. Episode 1 sets up your typical cast of cute girls doing X, with Pink who loves bowling and friendship, Blue the dairy B-word, Yellow the girly girl hoe, green the RR mommy, and purple the zany smart one. They make up their school's bowling club, and pink fumbles a crucial moment at the tournament, making blue very mad. Typical drama, cute girls doing cute things setup, it's kind of whatever. And then at the end of the episode, a magical floating bowling lane descends from heaven and teleports a group some 800 years into the past, where they watch a samurai murder the ever-loving crap out of each other and try to kill them. That's right. It's cute girls do bowling in ancient Japan, the anime, coming to theaters this summer, or the summer that just happened. This series for me is one of the reasons I not only love watching seasonal anime, but also love anime in general. It's a sort of offbeat story that sounds absurd, but just works in the medium. The studio animating seems fairly new to the game, with their first title only being back in 2019, but they clearly put their all into it with very solid animation and some very gorgeous scenes. The OP is filled with bowling metaphors and hidden meanings many had fun parsing through as Turkey aired. If you're a bowling guy or gal, I'm sure you'll have fun yourself trying to find them all. The OP song is also one I played on repeat with Hikaru and Necro's OPs this season because I only listen to anime OP and ED at this point. I love that Turkey didn't shy from showing the brutality of ye olde Japan's Sierra 15th century. I love that the modern ideals and morals that the girls take back in time from their modern sensibilities are shown to just not work in a different time period. I love that we watch someone get murdered by a bowling ball. I love that one minute the girls can be enjoying bowling, and the next moment, 3 of the main characters are trying to off themselves. Like, just straight up. It's a crazy journey. On top of all the good points I've already discussed, there's some good aha mystery moments. I truly think this anime deserved more discussion, because clearly it had a lot of thought put into it and takes itself very seriously for an anime about using a magical bowling ball fueled by lightning to travel back in time. If only Doc Brown knew you only needed a bowling ball and not a nuke-fueled flux capacitor, the movie would have gone very differently. If you love anime for all the right reasons, you should immediately binge this gem. And yeah, I did just use the gem. YouTube's rubbing off on me. Certainly there were a lot of exciting shows this season, many of which I didn't mention because, let's be honest, everyone who watched this video probably already watched or has them on their list already. Or like for many, a lot of the shows I watched this season were continuations from prior seasons. This season was absolutely packed, and I think I was watching something like 12 shows a week. Each season I like to make a small video talking about some shows I don't think got as much love, or at least I didn't see fan artists spamming everywhere, but wish they would. If you enjoyed this video, I'm Tamanon. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz if you'd like. If not, you can just click that downward thumb button thing. I don't know how to look at it anyway.